In this tutorial, we're going to enter in previously established targets. So perhaps you're a district or an implementing partner who's been given targets for PrEP, and you want to enter them in to see how they link with other modules to show the cost implications as well as looking at impact or capacity. So first you'll select targets option 3. And you can see on the navigation bar that we have to fill in the populations, continuation, before moving to targets. So there are separate tutorials for these previous steps, but we can click through them quickly. In populations, I've chosen 4 priority populations. You'll notice that I kept the first one blank because in my scenario here, I'm not providing PrEP to serodiscordant couples. Serodiscordant couples are treated somewhat differently in target setting, which is why they're allocated first. So you'll see that that first data entry then in the subsequent steps will be blank. For continuation, I've specified my continuation data and applied the appropriate continuation curves to the priority populations here. And next for targets, the first step is to define the target setting period. So you can see I've set a 3-year target setting period, but there's room for up to 10 years of target setting. Next, we come to this section that's intended to calculate the number of potential users by priority population based on population size, HIV prevalence, and the percent indicated for PrEP and in the PrEP-eligible geographic areas. This is particularly important for option 1 when you're setting targets by coverage. It's less important for options 2 and 3. However, you could enter this information in here if you want to find out what coverage of that population you will have. And to do so, you can look on our Target Setting Support tab, which gives you some national defaults around priority population size, prevalence, as well as some additional variables around percent at high risk or eligible for PrEP. Here we're going to start from the assumption that we are going to skip this step, that is not of particular importance, and move right on to the scale-up trend. So for scale-up trends, that's how the program is going to be rolled out. There are 3 different shapes that one can choose from when looking at scale-up trends. There's constant. This is typically for programs that have already been scaled up and are now expecting around the same amount of PrEP visits per month throughout this target setting period. In contrast, there's linear. This is for perhaps rapidly scaling up programs that are expecting more PrEP users at each given month. And finally, there's the S-shaped curve. This is the typical shape we see for a lot of scale up where you start gradually and then ramp up your scale up before leveling out to a more once scaled up. So when we do this, we can, for the S-shaped curve, we can set the midpoint. So that's the steepest part of the curve when you're scaling up most rapidly. I've set that here at the 1-year point, but you could set it earlier or you could set it later. And you can see how that shifts the curve. Set it back to 1 year. Additionally, you can set the speed of scale up. So this number is something that there's no precise value on what is the correct number, but rather you can play around with the different parameters and see the smaller the number you make, the flatter the curve, whereas the bigger it is, the steeper the curve. And really you're meant to just adjust this to where you get a good visual representation of how you think the scale up is going to occur. Once you've established your scale-up trends, you can apply them to your priority populations. Only one scale-up trend needs to be specified, but you have room for 3. So I'm going to give my S-shaped curve to my FSWs. I will give the trend A to MSM, and maybe trend B to my AGYW. Next, we go to the target setting options. So here we're choosing option 3. And this is where we're manually or directly inputting the target numbers of clients initiating from each priority population. So depending on whether the tool has been used before, you might want to verify that these cells are set to numbers. You can right-click, Format Cells, and verify that it's set to numbers, which it is here. And then you can just directly enter these in. So maybe over that 3-year target setting period, you're expected to have 4,000 initiating FSWs, 3,000 MSM, 2,500, and 3,500. So depending on whatever your targets have been assigned to you, you type them in here, and then they will link to the other modules in the tool. That is all that is needed for this tab. Please refer to the user guide for more information, and thank you for watching.